Have you ever sat through an entire lecture frantically scribbling down every word, only to look at your notes later and think, what the heck does any of this mean? Or maybe you're the student who doesn't write down anything because you have no idea what's important. So you just sit there in class, and then when it's time to study, you are scrolling through your professor's notes at midnight, hoping something, anything, makes sense. Look, I get it, note-taking can seem like this super vague skill that nobody actually teaches you how to do, and you think everybody else knows what they're doing, and you're just playing along, trying to fake it till you make it. But here's what I know after working with over 3,000 students. Fixing your note-taking system is the single fastest way to improve your grades. So today I'm breaking down why your notes might be sabotaging your success, and exactly what happens when you finally get them right. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why note-taking is not just about writing things down or capturing every single word with AI tools. We're going to talk about that. It's about changing your entire approach to learning, which is so much simpler than you think, and it's simpler than that sounds. In fact, by the end of this video, I'm going to have you thinking, oh my gosh, why did I not do that sooner? Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo of schoolhabits.com. I'm a private study skills and executive function coach who teaches how to learn and work smarter. That's also the name of my podcast. If you want to check that out, you should. All right, let's talk about something that might ruffle some feathers. Getting good grades has almost nothing to do with being smart. I know, we have all been told that smart kids get good grades, and that's what it looks like on the surface if you look around any classroom. But after 20 years of teaching, I can tell you that is not how it works at all. The students with the highest grades are the ones with the best skills and systems for doing school in the first place. They can handle the content and the learning of the content because they know how to handle it and how to learn it. So to start, I need you to understand that there are 6 critical systems that every student needs before they can learn a darn thing. And without these 6 systems, learning is pretty freaking hard. Okay, the 6 systems are task management, time management, note-taking, annotating, study skills, and organization. But one of these is at the core of everything else. And when you nail this one skill, the other 5 become exponentially easier. And that's note-taking. When you know how to take, organize, and use effective notes for studying, everything else just gets like in line. It's like note-taking is the foundation, and then everything else is built on top of it. And if there's no foundation, then there's no anything else, really, right? So let's talk about what happens when you don't have this foundation, so that you really understand the negative impact that having no note-taking strategy has on basically everything else about school. So here's what I see happening with students who don't know how to take good notes. I'm going to give you 5 scenarios, and I'll bet one of them applies to you, maybe more. So scenario 1, you are trying to write down everything your professor says, word for word. And you are so focused on transcribing things or writing them down that you're not actually processing anything. And plus the teacher is talking faster than you can write, so you're missing half of what's being said in the first place. Scenario 2, you end up with pages of notes that are basically hieroglyphics. They are missing key information. They're just kind of jumped around and disorganized. Maybe there's too much information, so you don't even know what's important out of all of it. And then when you try to study from them, you're more confused than before you even took the notes in the first place. Scenario 3, you have literally nothing to study from because your notes are garbage. So you're stuck rereading textbook chapters, maybe scrolling through your teacher's slides at 2 a.m. because your notes are literally junk or they're non-existent in the first place. Scenario 4, you have some notes, but they're just copied from your friend's notes, or maybe you just grabbed the teacher's slides. So like technically they're there in your notebook, but they're not yours. And this is just as bad as having no notes at all, because when you don't take your own notes in your own words, you are not learning anything during class, which means that you have to spend twice as long studying later because you're starting from basically 0. Nobody wants that. In scenario 5, you have no idea what's important, so you just don't write anything at all. And then test day comes and you're absolutely cooked. Now, the one thing that each of these scenarios has in common is that no note-taking strategy, or a bad note-taking strategy, messes not only with what you're learning in the moment during the actual lecture, but also the materials that you have to study with when it's time to study for the test. Okay, and before we move on, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, AI note-taking tools. And I know what you're thinking, Katie, like, why would I take notes when I can just have some AI app record and transcribe everything for me? And listen, I get the appeal. It sounds like the perfect solution. You can just sit there and the app does all the work for you. But here's why using AI tools to completely replace note-taking sabotages your learning, like 100%. First, AI gives you everything. Every single word, every tangent your professor goes on, every and every and every random story about their cat. You end up with 15 pages of transcript with 0 hierarchy of what matters and what doesn't. And trust me when I tell you that way too much information is just as bad as no information at all. And then two, you still have to do something with these massive transcripts. Like you still need to turn these into something more refined, more synthesized, more organized. But now you're doing that after the class is over, if at all, and you don't remember the lecture because you zoned out because you were letting the AI note taker do your thinking for you. And that's actually the bigger problem here, the part that kills your grades, when you know that AI is catching everything. When you know it's doing the thinking for you, you give yourself permission to zone out during class. You're sitting there physically, you might even assume the position of like a proper student, but mentally, you're out. And this is what most people don't get. The act of taking notes isn't just about capturing information, it's about thinking while you write. It's about thinking about what you write. It's your brain processing what you're hearing and deciding what's important and making connections and asking questions to yourself in your head or even out loud. It's rephrasing things into your own words. When you write something down, you're not just recording the words, you're learning it. Your brain is doing the work of understanding and encoding that information in real time so that you can study less later because you've already started the learning process by listening and writing it down. And AI can't do that for you. In fact, AI makes it harder to do that. AI can't think about what's writing. AI can't make the neural connections that happen when you decide, oh, this connects to what we learned last week, or wait, the professor said this twice, it's probably really important, I should star it, right? This is definitely going to be on the test. Using AI to take your notes is like having someone else do your push-ups for you and then be like, where are my muscles? And then being bummed out that your muscles didn't get any stronger. The magic isn't in having the notes. The magic is in taking the notes. There's a difference there, and it matters so much. I am all for a good hack, but the minute you fall for the hyped up promise that there is a way to hack your learning, which mind you, is like a biological process that we can't hack, like you've already lost. And I say this, I'm saying it a little harshly, but it's because I care about you. But here's the beautiful thing. When you know how to take notes properly, your grades improve for real, for 3 specific reasons. Reason 1, you actually learn while you're taking notes. Okay, this is where it gets a little interesting. Taking notes the right way during class helps you learn the material from the moment you hear it. I kind of already alluded to this at the top of the video. We're talking about actual neurological changes happening in your brain as you write. This is not woo-woo. This is not fantasy. This is not just what I imagine it to be like. This is science. When you take notes using a proper system, like the 2-part capture and clarify system that I teach in my college note-taking power system, obviously, you're capturing just the right amount of information. Not too much that you're overwhelmed, not too little that you're missing key concepts, but the Goldilocks just right amount. And you're formatting it in a way that lets you immediately see connections between concepts. And you might not think that this is a big deal, but my friends, it is. It is the difference between having to study for 5 hours versus 2 hours. And I'm pretty sure you want that. But when you don't know how to take notes, when you're writing down incomplete, overly complicated, or straight up wrong information, you are literally encoding, that's the fancy word for learning, the wrong things. All right, now reason number 2, your grades improve with the right note-taking system is that studying becomes almost automatic. When you sit down to study, you should not be scrambling to figure out what to study. Your study time should be spent using active recall strategies. I teach those inside School Habits University, right? And not spent organizing and flipping through your notes and wondering where that paper went and if this should be on the test and if this is important. That should already have been handled before you sit down to study. But if you don't have good notes, you're missing your most valuable study resource. A quick sidebar about passive versus active studying. Passive studying is when you're rereading notes, maybe you're watching videos, you're highlighting textbooks. It feels like studying because it takes time and you're looking at academic words, but it does absolutely nothing to get information into your head. It's again like going to the gym and just looking at the equipment. Active studying is when you're testing yourself, when you are solving problems, making quizzes, explaining concepts out loud, doing mind maps, things like that. Good notes make active studying super possible and super easy. But bad notes force you into passive studying because you don't have the right material to work with in the first place. Okay, that was my little tangent. But when you use my note-taking system, you learn to identify the important stuff and format it in a way that's super simple to transform into study materials. So you're not wasting time studying random details that won't even be on the test. And then reason 3, good notes make school easier is big assignments get so much easier. So when you have solid notes, so much else about school becomes more manageable. If you need to write a paper, your notes have all the examples and concepts you need. They're organized, they're ready to go. You're not scrolling through your random Google Docs or 47 lecture slides trying to find the one thing that your professor mentioned. If you're working on a project, your notes are already broken down into the chunks that you can tackle one at a time. If you need to make a presentation about Unit 2, your Unit 2 notes are clear, they're clean, they're labeled, they're organized, and they're distinct from other units. Boom, ready to go. And also, as a bonus, when our notes are organized, we naturally become more organized as well. We know where everything is, we save time because we're not redoing work or hunting things down. We manage tasks better because our notes are already structured in a way that makes studying easier, so you end up with more time to fit in other things that you need to do. You study smarter because your notes aren't stuffed with every single word the teacher said or that, your AI app gave you, so that you can focus on the right things that are going to be on the test. Okay, we covered what happens when you don't have a proper note-taking system, not good stuff, and what awesome benefits you get when you do have a note-taking system. Next, let's cover what makes a good note-taking system actually powerful. A good note-taking system has 5 characteristics. Number 1, consistency. This means that you generally use it the same way across all of your classes. It should feel automatic and not like something that you have to rebuild or rethink every single time you sit down in a class. Number 2, clarity. Your notes make sense when you come back to them. Clear language, legible writing, clean formatting, labels, headings, a structure. You can do the 2-column notes. I teach 3, sometimes I say like 3 different note-taking methods in the note-taking power system. But these headings and the format and the structure should help you navigate and understand what you're learning when you go back to those notes. Number 3, you need to have good structure. So whether it's bullet points, indentations, columns, your notes have to follow a structure that supports how we learn and the natural way that our brains organically organize information into clusters. Number 4, a built-in review system. So taking notes isn't the end product. Like you're gonna end up with a pile of notes, but it's actually just the beginning. A solid note system actually becomes a method for studying. So your notes can easily and smoothly be turned into active recall, study resources like flashcards and quizzes with very little extra time and effort. Finally, number 5, flexibility. Taking notes in a fast lecture class is different from taking notes in a discussion-based class. And a great system allows you to adapt your general note-taking foundational structure to different scenarios. Look, I know some of you are thinking like, but Katie, I've tried different note-taking methods and nothing has worked. But here's the thing, and I say this with love, you haven't tried the right system yet. Inside my college note-taking power system, I teach you my exact 2-part method that thousands of students have used to transform their notes from hot garbage into study gold. And that might sound cheesy, but I am gonna die on the hill making that claim. This is not about whether you type or write your notes. It's not about what app you use or what color pens you have, or if it's a PC or an iPad or whatever. It is about learning a systematic approach that works in any class for any subject at any speed. And yes, I have specific templates for different subjects because taking notes in organic chemistry is not the same as taking notes in philosophy. All right, the massive subject notes power pack that comes as a bonus with my program has you covered for nearly every kind of notes in any topic. The bottom line, if your notes aren't helping you study, or worse, they're making you more confused, you need a better system. Note-taking is not just about writing things down, it's about learning things better, it's about stressing less, and it's about finally getting this fundamental skill right so that school becomes less painful. Because when you fix your notes, you fix your grades. It really is that simple. The college note-taking power system is linked below. It is super affordable. It's like less than a hoodie, okay? But it will literally change how you do school. And unlike that overpriced textbook that you are guaranteed to never use again, this is a skill that you are gonna use for the rest of your academic career and even going forward into your professional life. Okay, my friends, if this helped you understand why your notes might be holding you back, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, drop a comment, let me know what is your biggest note-taking struggle. I read every comment and it's actually me replying because I am not cool or big enough to have a team. It's just me. And of course, join me inside the note-taking power system with lifetime access by clicking on the link in the description box or heading to collegenotetakingssystem.com. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for trusting me. And remember, better notes really do mean better grades. It's not magic, it's skill. Thank you so much for watching.